the most important position in fantasy football. These guys are going to win you your leagues, no doubt. The wide receivers. This is the top 32 wide receivers in fantasy football, whether you're playing full point PPR, half point PPR. These guys are better at staying healthy than running backs for sure. They get more targets than tight ends. And you can only play one quarterback. Sometimes you play two. But a lot of times you have at least two wide receivers, and if you have flex positions and a third wide receiver slot, you have up to five or sometimes even six. This is the most important position to draft in fantasy football. Trust me, everyone that's played with me knows this. We're going to jump right in here because I want to retain you guys better than I have in the past. So we're going to start with number 32 here. We got Christian Watson, the guy that's no longer playing with Aaron Rodgers. Unfortunately, he's going to be the guinea pig of Jordan Love. However, he is going to have – I'm going to give the positives and negatives. The positives on him, he's going to have opportunity. He's the number one receiver there. Him and Romeo Doubs, I think they're both second-year guys. He is the better receiver. He is the number one receiver. He's going to get targets. I mean, it's plain and simple. They're going to throw the ball to this guy. The other guys on the team are just aren't that great. And he showed some potential. I remember maybe he had 2 games last year where he had like 3 touchdowns. So he can break out absolutely with the right opportunities. On the shortcomings of Christian Watson, essentially, when I watch him play, his skill is not that great compared to a lot of these other receivers we're going to see in the top 30. And he's just inconsistent, as we saw last year. So he'll have some great games, and then he'll fall off some games. But there's a potential there and the opportunity. Jordan Love, it's really going to be a barometer. How good Jordan Love is going to show how good Christian Watson is. So at 32, Christian Watson. Moving on to number 31, we have Nico Collins of the Houston Texans. This is another case of just opportunity. C.J. Stroud, this is another barometer. How good is C.J. Stroud going to be? Nico Collins is going to be his number one target. The guys behind him, I think it's just Robert Woods, and I can't really think of anybody else on this team. Dameon Pierce doesn't really catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. Maybe Devin Singletary will, but Nico Collins is going to have the opportunity. He's another guy, I think he's either a second or third year guy. Showed some potential, has some ability, but there's just not enough of a body of work to tell me anything other than the fact that he will be 31 on this list because he didn't get many opportunities last year. He's on the Texans. They didn't do much. I think he was injured for a spell, but he does show some promising aspects. He's a good guy, especially if you're playing Dynasty. He's a very young guy. He has a high upside. And if C.J. Stroud does well, Nico Collins is going to do well. And they started showing that synergy at the end of the preseason. So at number 31, Nico Collins. At number 30 here, we have a very exciting player, Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens. Tremendous upside. He is extremely fast, extremely elusive, extremely twitchy. When you see him play with the ball in his hands, he is impressive. Some of the downsides, of course, he's a little bit smaller. He's more likely to go down when somebody hits him. He looks like early period Marquise Hollywood Brown, especially in a Ravens uniform. And the biggest downside is he has Lamar Jackson as his quarterback, who is a terrible passer of the football. He's more of a runner. He'll throw it to his tight ends and his running backs and things like that. But no receivers have prospered under Lamar Jackson. So that's really the only downside. That's why he's at 30 here. Also, he's a rookie. He hasn't played in the league. But what he showed in the preseason is possibly best of the rookie wide receivers in terms of opportunity and possibly skill. Of course, I like Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jordan Addison. Players like this, they have opportunities to do well. But Zay Flowers is uniquely positioned to do well as their number one receiver and has an extremely fast, explosive guy. So at number 30, Zay Flowers. Number 29, the enigmatic Kadarius Toney of the Kansas City Chiefs, the new number one receiver on this team. It's a rotating cast of number one receivers. I mean, really, the number one receiver on this team is Travis Kelce. They lost Juju Smith-Schuster last year. 2 years ago, they lost Tyreek Hill. Right now, it's between Kadarius Toney and MVS, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, he is on a good team. He would be the number 3. They have a Sky Moore as well. Sky Moore hasn't shown much. Kadarius Toney, the upside on this guy is sky high. When you watch him play, his ability is tremendous. He displays that run after the catch and that want to not only catch the ball but score a touchdown on every play. That is fairly unique. I mean, you only see it in players like maybe Davante Adams and really just elite players. So Kadarius Toney here at number 29, he's going to have Patrick Mahomes. That is a huge, huge plus for him, and he's going to have opportunity. The only question about him, like I mentioned, he is enigmatic. He fell out of favor with the Giants. That might be a Brian Daboll thing more than a him thing, because other Giants also fell out of favor with Brian Daboll. And he just seems to be kind of an emotional guy, and he seems to be injured quite a bit. I think he will be ready for week 1 here. And he just has tremendous, tremendous upside, and he's finally getting an opportunity. He hasn't had that opportunity, I think, in maybe 3 years, or 3 years now, yeah. He hasn't had an opportunity. He's finally getting it now. So at 29, Kadarius Toney. At number 28, we have Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints, once a top 5 receiver in this league, not too long ago, maybe 3 years ago. Had injury issues, had issues with his team, didn't want to have surgery during the offseason. Very strange stuff. Maybe Dennis Allen will get more out of him than Sean Payton did in terms of the temperament. Maybe he treats him better than Sean Payton did. Of course, the roof on this guy is also sky high because he's already been up there. He was a top receiver, and the reason why he is at 28 is because he hasn't shown it for damn near 3 years at this point. He's been injured. And now he has a guy named Chris Olave on his team, which can be good and bad because Chris Olave is their number 1 guy now. He is their number 2 guy. So maybe the fact that he's going to be having the second best cornerback guarding him will offer a smoother for landing for him as he approaches playing in the regular season again. So I think Michael Thomas is a really good bet. He has a great wide receiver frame. He has good ability. He played well in the preseason. Caught a few balls from Derek Carr. They showed some synergy. So I think this could work out really well for you as the 28th best wide receiver. Number 27, we have Jalen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins, a guy that could very easily be higher on this list. However, he is oft injured. This is what I've known Jalen Waddle to be. He is second behind Tyreek Hill, who, I mean, if I'm Tua, Tyreek Hill is one of the best guys in the league to get the ball to. I would just throw it to him over and over and over. Tyreek Hill is the best combination of speed and ability to catch the ball in the league. So the fact that he's second to him is not great because Tyreek will get a ton of volume, as he should. Now, when Jalen Waddle is healthy, he could be a number 1 on a team. He's elite. His cuts, his speed, while not like Tyreek Hill because Jalen Waddle has a bigger frame, are very, very good. He is a very, very impressive receiver. In the right circumstances, if he stays healthy, and I hate to say it, maybe if a Tyreek maybe goes down, Jalen Waddle could be absolutely a top 10 receiver in the league. But as it stands now with some of the injury concerns, of course you have always the concern about Tua. I mean, they were shuffling quarterbacks at the end of last year as well. He's number 27, Jalen Waddle, but with high upside. So we move on to number 26. We have George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The better of the 2 starting receivers in Pittsburgh, in my estimation. If you saw a little bit earlier, if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. Would really, really appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. And hit that notification bell so that whenever we drop videos, you're the first to know. And give us a like, comment, subscribe, all all that good stuff. But George Pickens, he is better than Deontay Johnson. It's very clear to me. I don't know why they continue to try to make Deontay Johnson the top guy there. George Pickens, a lot of people pigeonhole him as the nice catch guy, the beautiful catch guy, the athletic catch guy. And I hope they don't turn him into a Brandon Lloyd where that's all he becomes in his entire career, because that seems like what they want for him. But he has a great connection with Kenny Pickett. That's the number one most important thing here as well, is his connection with Pickett. They both kind of started to excel last year at the same time. They have a great chemistry. Pickens, also his run after the catch, if you saw his touchdown in the preseason, just absolutely tremendous. That the ability to break tackles and the speed and playing through contact, very, very impressive with George Pickens. And he is the number one receiver on the Steelers, without a doubt. Reason why he's a little bit lower here, Steelers don't want to put him as the number one guy for some reason, and he doesn't have a ton of experience. He didn't play all of last year. So he only played really, I think maybe it was half the year or maybe a little more than half. So you just got to see a little bit more. So at number 26, George Pickens. Number 25, we have the guy from my favorite team, the Seattle Seahawks, Tyler Lockett. All reliable, one of the best number 2 receivers in the league. He's been that his entire career, going from Doug Baldwin to DK Metcalf, and he's done it extremely, extremely well. The reason why he's had such a long career is because he plays the game in a very smart way. We can call it smart. I like to call it smart because he had a gruesome injury on Christmas Day. Maybe this was 4 or 5 years ago. And when he catches the ball, he just kind of goes down and avoids contact. And, of course, that's a lot of people will view that as the opposite of what they would want in a top receiver. And I'm one of those guys. I like the Davante Adams, Kadarius Toney type that will fight for those extra yards. But Tyler Lockett is so good at running routes and getting open and finding holes in the defense. And he's absolutely a monster at receptions, that especially if you play, PPR, he is going to get you a ton of points. And he has the reputation. He has that body of work to show he's done it over and over and over and over again every single year. So, 25, Tyler Lockett. At number 24, we have a guy that has shot up the list for me here. His name is Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos, because, as I mentioned in previous podcasts, the Denver Broncos receiver room is bare at this point. KJ Hamler out. Tim Patrick out. Jerry Jeudy had a hamstring injury that they're saying is going to keep him out for several weeks, and that's not good in fantasy, especially to hamstring injury. So Courtland Sutton is the number one guy. He's really the only legitimate wide receiver weapon for Russell Wilson. People are big fans of Greg Dulcich, the tight end there. But even, Javonte Williams, what I saw in the preseason, he's going to take a few weeks to get confidence in his legs after coming back from that bad leg injury. And Courtland Sutton's a good receiver, actually. I think he's better than Jerry Jeudy, even when Jerry Jeudy comes back. Jerry Jeudy has a specific body. He's like a Ceedee Lamb type. He's a little bit slender, a little bit taller, not that tall. But Courtland Sutton has the frame of a legitimate number one wide receiver and the catching skills. The only concern I have is that Russell Wilson, I know, usually doesn't pair well with those conventional big receivers. I remember there were some issues between him and DK just because maybe some of the height difference getting him the ball. But if they can find that synergy, Courtland Sutton can be an amazing receiver. And Sean Payton is going to be the coach for Russell Wilson this year. So what you saw last year might be a fluke. Of course, when he was with the Seahawks, he was amazing. It just might be a one-year fluke with a guy that's couldn't be a head coach, that is back to his offensive coordinator role and with the Jets now and Aaron Rodgers. So I like the upside in Cortland Sutton. So Cortland Sutton we have here at number 24. Number 23, another former superstar, DeAndre Hopkins. Or is he a current superstar? I guess we'll see. Been in the league for 10 years, entering his 11th year here. Of course, we know how great DeAndre Hopkins is when he is healthy and in the right system. The problem is he hasn't been in the right system in a long time. Of course, started with the Texans. That was a travesty almost his entire time there. But he thrived in spots, maybe with Ryan Fitzpatrick and some of the Deshaun Watson, when they had that brief period there with Deshaun Watson, and then went with Kyler Murray, and that's been a crap show ever since he got there. Who knows what's going to happen with the Cardinals this season, by the way. And that's the reason why Marquise Brown is not on this list. He could have been on this list, but the Cardinals look bad, y'all. The Cardinals look like they are going to suffer this year. They might go 0-17, but I digress. DeAndre Hopkins, we know he is possibly one of the greatest receivers in history, and absolutely one of the greatest receivers in the past 20 years, probably top 5, I would say. Great player, but the offense that he's in is a little tough. The Titans' offense I don't really trust. Of course, they have Mike Vrabel as their coach. He's a defensive guy. They should be run heavy with Derrick Henry and Tyjae Spears. That's their forte. And they're more of a great defense, great running, and the passing game is usually an afterthought. When you look at guys like Ryan Tannehill, probably towards the end of his career here, there's been so much talk. I mean, they've drafted 2 quarterbacks the past 2 years very high within Malik Willis and Will Levi. Within, I think both of those guys were top 2, second round, between first and the third round picks. I forget. But it might be a situation again where the person passing him the ball is just not consistent. It might go between 3 quarterbacks that are doing it. And also, DeAndre Hopkins had some injury issues, has been out, as a malcontent essentially for maybe the past year and a half. But we know if things are, on the right path for the Titans and everything is clicking for that offense, then DeAndre Hopkins is going to be the biggest beneficiary, more than Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks is very good too, but he is even more injury prone. Even last year he was very injury prone. I think this year he's dealing with an injury as well already. So DeAndre Hopkins is the receiver to have in Tennessee at number 23. Moving to number 22, we have T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals, who I believe, I'd have to review this list again, but might be the best number 2 receiver in the league, maybe tied with the guy that we're going to see next here. Could be a number 1 receiver in many offenses, if not for Jamar Chase. The way he catches the ball is textbook. Reminds me of Larry Fitzgerald, where the way he catches the ball at its highest point with his hands. Great receiver in a great offense. Of course, you hear today about Joe Burrow not practicing. What does that have to do with? Is that his leg? Is that the contract issue that they're having? But their backup is Jake Browning, UW dog. And it'd be cool to see him out there. Of course, he led the 2016 UW Huskies to the Final Four, and they had a great season. Maybe his arm is stronger now. That was the thing about Jake Browning in college, is that he didn't have a strong arm. He was very accurate, resilient, could move out of the pocket. So even if Jake Browning plays, I'd be excited to see that too. T. Higgins, amazing receiver, would be a number 1 on any other team as it stands here at number 22. Number 21, here's the guy that I just mentioned, Keenan Allen of the Los Angeles Chargers. And of course, you're going to split hairs here, and you're going to see the next guy on the list. I think he is now the number 2 to Mike Williams. Of course, I'm a big fan of Keenan Allen as a possession receiver, and there are games where he breaks out and has 15 catches and just goes and gets that ball. He's like a Steve Smith type. Of course, he's like DeAndre Hopkins here in that he's a little bit older. He's entering his 11th year, and he started to break down physically last year. I think maybe the past 2 years. I remember I owned him in fantasy probably the past 2 years and was a little bit frustrated. I mean, when he played, he was amazing, but him getting on the field was a little tough. But his upside is just so high that in a room on a team where many of them view him as the number one receiver and playing with who I think is the best quarterback in the league, Justin Herbert. Undeniable, undeniable. He's healthy now. He looked good in preseason and in practice. So as it sits now, Keenan Allen, number 21. And number 20, it's his running mate, Mike Williams. Now, this guy took a step last year, took a step forward last year. Even though he also had a bad injury, or not a bad injury, but he had an injury that kept him out some games. Showed some resiliency, came back, but he has the typical number one receiver frame and skill set. He is the big play guy. He is the deep ball guy, the home run hitter, and it's time for him to step up here. I mean, if Keenan Allen, remains healthy, and of course, like I mentioned, you have Justin Herbert, who was the best quarterback in the league. There's no excuse. There's no excuse for Mike Williams not to shine this year. He showed great things, and I think he will take a step forward in this offense. So at number 20, Mike Williams. Number 19, we have Deebo Samuel. I know this is a little bit of a controversial guy, actually. I thought that I had him pretty low, but then I looked at some other draft boards recently, and people had him even lower than this. So Deebo Samuel, ton of reasons to like him, obviously. He is a great gadget guy for the Niners. He's fast. He plays through contact. He is the best receiver on the Niners, who are a team known for their offense because it's run by Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy seems to be a pretty darn good quarterback, and he is going to have a full season this time finally. The reasons I don't like Deebo Samuel, he plays running back as well, and that opens you up to injury. You know how I feel about running backs. This is a guy that's going to be tackled by defensive linemen and linebackers a lot more than he needs to, and a lot more than other receivers, because they utilize him as a running back. And this is not only on end arounds and on edge stuff. I mean, he'll go, closer to inside than you should with a receiver. So that's really my concern here, is that he's going to get injured. We all know the Niners also tend to injure a lot of their players. I think Shanahan probably overutilizes them. I think Christian McCaffrey probably is in the same boat, and I had Christian McCaffrey at about the same place here in my running back ranking. So number 19, Deebo Samuel. In number 18, we have a favorite of mine as well, DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears, a guy that can't seem to catch a break in terms of getting a good quarterback to get him the ball, because in the right situation, DJ Moore is a top 7 receiver in the league without a doubt. He has a skill set for it. He is fast. He catches the ball very well. He has the resiliency to break tackles. Just an exceptional player. But the issue that's keeping him here at 18 and not higher is Justin Fields, who as a runner is the best running quarterback in the league, but as a passer has yet to prove himself. And even the success that they had in the preseason is screenplays. That screenplay that he threw to DJ Moore, that DJ Moore took for maybe about 60 yards by himself to get into the end zone. Tells you a lot more about DJ Moore than Justin Fields. But the issue with that is that eventually defenses are going to realize that. They're going to realize the deficiencies of Justin Fields in that way, and they're going to pounce on it. but the upside is just too high, and you're banking on a Justin Fields that is maybe even incrementally better this year, and DJ Moore is their number one receiver. So that's what you're counting on. So DJ Moore, number 18. Number 17, we have a guy that could also be poised for a breakout this year. Drake London from London Town. Um, has a better quarterback this year. I'm willing to say that Desmond Ridder is an improvement over Marcus Mariota. He, you listen to the quarterback ranking podcast, you know that I'm not a fan of Desmond Ritter's velocity. Should I say? He doesn't have a lot of speed on his passes. But Drake London is the prototypical number one wide receiver. He just didn't have the right quarterback last year. Marcus Mariota, they had like a highlight video of how bad he was last year on social media today. Man, that guy fell off fast. But if Desmond Ridder can be better than that, and I think he is. Desmond Ridder is one of those guys that seems like would be exceptional for at like 10-yard passes, 10 to 15-yard passes. I think he could be really exceptional at that. So you get Drake London beating his guy, mossing his guy essentially, running some slants, doing things like that. I think he has a big opportunity to excel. The offense is better overall this year with Bijan as well. Kyle Pitts, it looks like they're also going to get him the ball, which is good. This all bodes well for Drake London. So could be a breakout year for the number 17 guy, Drake London. Moving to number 16, we have Michael Pittman. This is a tough guy to analyze here, right? So I have been on the fence about this guy for a while. The tough things about Pittman is that he doesn't use his hands to catch the ball as much as I'd like, especially for a number one receiver that has the prototypical frame of a number one receiver. Of course, he has pedigree. His father played the position as well in the NFL. But Anthony Richardson needs somebody to throw the ball to. Michael Pittman has to be that guy. He has experience in the league. He's shown flashes of doing really well. I remember that one game it was like flooding. There's like hurricane conditions, and he dominated that game. And that proved a lot to me when especially receiver. I mean, those kind of weather games, you see a lot of running backs thrive, but when I saw Michael Pittman thrive in that game, that impressed me a lot. It showed me there is inconsistency with Michael Pittman, which is why he's at 16. He could definitely be higher if he reached his full potential. It's really gonna come down to Anthony Richardson, who I think is better, and I think he's better, probably the best rookie quarterback. But I can't put Pittman any higher than 16. He has a chance to go up, but Pittman, just catch that ball with your hands at the highest point. Don't keep letting it fall to you, because Richardson is going to need that kind of help this year, because he is not the most accurate quarterback, obviously. He has a lot of good skill set. I think he is fairly accurate. He's tremendously athletic, but help your guy out, catch the ball with those hands. Michael Pittman at number 16. Number 15, we have a guy that is going to be way lower on people's boards because of his situation. Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's playing with Baker Mayfield this year. No more Tom Brady, unfortunately. But Baker Mayfield reminds me of a guy that Mike Evans used to play with and thrive with, and that guy's name is Johnny Manziel. Johnny Football. At his peak, Baker Mayfield is what Manziel was at his peak in Texas, and I would say. Now, to say that, I will say Baker Mayfield is like a top-tier college quarterback, even right now. Poor Buccaneers. I mean, that's a tough situation for them. But The thing I like about Mike Evans, and I've had him consistently on my fantasy teams, is that he will get injured in the game and then come right back in. Get injured in the game, come right back in. It just seems like he does that in half of his games. Resilient, very resilient. And man, I can't think of a guy that catches more touchdowns. Like, just like on those go routes, he finds a way to like catch the ball, whether it's mossing his receiver or angling himself to catch a ball on those go routes. He might be really one of the best at that in the league currently. So even though he is 30 years old, entering his 10th year, something about Mike Evans' resiliency tells me that even downgrade at quarterback is not going to allow him to fall that much. And he is, of course, a prototypical wide receiver. So until I see some signs of decline, this guy is a steal. Number 15 receiver. Number 14, we have the local guy here, Terry McLaurin from the Washington Commanders. One of the best receivers, one of the best pure catchers of the football. Obviously, we know that. He is well regarded amongst people in the NFL, receivers. If you ask a lot of receivers, they've said this before, that who is the best receiver in the league, who has the best hands. Terry McLaurin constantly is mentioned. Of course, his issue is that he plays in Washington with the Commanders, with a franchise that, while they did change hands recently, see ya, Dan Snyder, you don't know how that culture will change. You just don't know yet. Of course, Josh Harris has had success with the Sixers, Magic Johnson, with the Lakers, obviously. But still, this is Sam Howell's first year starting. A lot of changes on the defense also for this team. Culture-wise, I don't know. Ron Rivera is still the coach. And of course, he had that turf toe injury in the last preseason game. Looks like he's going to be okay. It's good that there's a little bit of a gap now between the last preseason game and the first game of the season. Maybe it's like 2 weeks now, I think, for most teams, which is great. Gives them time to get healthy. And turf toe isn't really something that is going to keep you out long term, as far as I know. So for the upside, Sam Howell has some upside. I've seen him play, but he just doesn't have enough film to show. But this could be a breakout year for Terry McLaurin at number 14. Number 13, we got a real buzzy guy here, Garrett Wilson. Going to be very exciting to watch him with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, number one guy now, without a doubt. This is a guy that emerged in the second half of last season when he was a rookie. Tremendously talented, athletic receiver. Very fun to watch. Like I mentioned, going to be the number one guy with the Jets, who are an exciting team, and a team that now has a stable of great running backs, a stable of receivers that include Allen Lazard and Mecole Hardman, and they have some good tight ends as well. But even catching the ball out of the backfield, I think they have some great running backs that do that. And of course, Aaron Rodgers, one of the best QBs of all time. And I think he's good at getting open. And the thing that I like about this situation for Garrett Wilson is the number one attribute of Aaron Rodgers is that he is the most reluctant to throw interceptions. We know that his ratio, I think, is maybe the best of all time in terms of touchdowns to interceptions or passes to interception. I think he's only thrown maybe like a little more than 100 in his entire career, and he's been playing for a very long time. So Garrett Wilson is superior to Allen Lazard and to Mecole Hardman and to any of the tight ends and running backs on this team at getting open. That means Aaron Rodgers is going to throw him the ball more than any of these other guys because he gets that separation more so than anybody else. So there is upside with Garrett Wilson. He could enter a top 5 discussion, top 7 discussion by the end of this year. But because I haven't seen enough of him, he doesn't have a full season of experience at playing against elite defenses and things like that. And possibly I mean, if the Jets are really good, then if their defense is really good, then a lot of these games may be decided by the fourth quarter already. It's not out of the cards, and if that's the case, you have a stable of running backs with Dalvin Cook and Brees Hall and players like that, Michael Carter. They might run heavy in the fourth quarter. So Garrett Wilson, number 13. Number 12, we have Stefon Diggs, who talent-wise, of course, is better than number 12. He's the guy that led the league in receptions or receiving yards maybe 2 years ago. He had also a tremendous season last year playing with Josh Allen. But that might be the issue, is that I don't know that he enjoys playing with Josh Allen. He gets very upset when he doesn't get the ball. And actually, there's been multiple reports both at the beginning of the offseason and currently that he is not happy in Buffalo. Doesn't want to be there, wants a trade. He tried to come out and say, to double down, to say, oh no, I want to be, but he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. And he, during the preseason, if you saw, he's just very, very emotional, plays very emotional. I remember he threw the ball at somebody. I can't recall if it was somebody on the other team or maybe his teammate or one of his coaches. Very emotional guy that if he was happy in a situation would be higher, obviously. But who knows if he's going to be here. And if he's not happy, he might not play in a way that is indicative of his true skill. And there might be a period where they trade him mid-season, and then you're talking about missing a week, maybe missing 2 weeks. It's just a little risky to put him any higher than 12. But the upside, if things go well, getting him at 12 I think is about right. So Stefon Diggs at number 12. Number 11, we have Naif and his daughter's favorite receiver, Ceedee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys. Another guy that has upside. This is the Jerry Jeudy on steroids, whatever you want to call it, the better version of Jerry Jeudy. Is very solid receiver, has a good quarterback in Dak Prescott. Maybe later we'll have Trey Lance, which would be a lot worse for him. I don't know what else really to say about this guy. Now he has Brandon Cooks. That's going to be a little bit better in terms of his situation to go with him and Michael Gallup. Tight end wise, I think they're okay. I forget now. They lost Schultz. I'm not sure who they're going with. I don't think they drafted a guy. So maybe they downgraded a little bit at tight end. Tony Pollard coming off an injury. Deuce Vaughn is another one of the running backs. Has good skill. Has really, really good skill. His situation might be a little tough to keep him out here of the top 10, but has really good upside, I would say. So at number 11, Ceedee Lamb. Number 10, this is a guy that you probably won't see this guy this high on a lot of other lists. We have Amari Cooper. Super, super, super solid receiver every year. And the biggest upside here is because I'm a believer in Deshaun Watson. I believe that Deshaun Watson will have a resurgence this year. I think he'll be great. And Amari Cooper is going to be the biggest beneficiary of that. Of course, you have Elijah Moore, David Njoku, Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I like as well. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is underrated. But Amari Cooper has found a way to stay very, very youthful throughout his time. Now he's entering his 8th year. Just a superb, superb receiver, and has had a great skill set throughout his career. And I think he's going to be in a great situation. So I am a believer on the upside of Amari Cooper. Number 9, we have Chris Olave, the new number 1 receiver in New Orleans. He is playing with Derek Carr this year, who is a better quarterback than he's ever had, marginally. He is entering his second year after a breakout rookie season where he was possibly one of the best receivers in the league as a rookie, one of the best rookie receivers. He has Michael Thomas back now to take a little bit of the load off of him, some of the pressure off of him. Just a very very skilled guy. Catches the ball well. He he does very well at jumping to catch the ball too. I remember in a game against the Seahawks, and then there's several other games where he's not afraid to go up and get the ball. So great receiver on the up, Chris Olave. Number 8, we got Amon-Ra St. Brown. It doesn't show his full name here. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Excellent, excellent, excellent receiver. I've been a fan of this guy since he got into the league. He is Tyler Lockett on steroids. He is Tyler Lockett par excellence, the best version of Tyler Lockett. Possession monster, getting open monster, resilience monster, will to win, just a mindset. Everything about this guy. Also playing in an improved offense now. Jared Goff is having a renaissance, and they have Hawkinson. No, they don't have Hawkinson. They drafted a receiver, a tight end there, Sam Laporta, I believe, and they have good running backs this year, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. This is a team with tremendous momentum from last year, and this is gonna be. He has the potential to be a Cooper Kupp type receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I have tremendous, tremendous faith in this guy. Just super, super solid, super reliable. Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 8. Number 7, we have DK Metcalf of the Seattle Seahawks. I was surprised to see him lower on a lot of people's list. I don't see how. As long as he made a little bit of improvement this year in his ball retention, essentially. Funny phrase, but what I mean is not fumbling and just seeing the ball through to his hands, because everything else about this guy, size, elite, speed, elite. He's an Olympic capable speed. We all know what he did against Buda Baker, and he competed against professional runners, sprinters. And he has the frame of a number 1 receiver, and he's playing with Geno Smith now, who is better at getting the ball to taller receivers. Let's make no doubt about that. So DK Metcalf, again, also with the addition of Jackson Smith and Jigba, so many guys to just take the pressure off of DK Metcalf here. He's primed. He is primed to break out this year. I heard he changed his diet for the better as well. He used to just drink coffee and eat candy. I heard he got healthier in that sense as well. Nothing about what has happened in this offseason tells me he's going to be worse, only that he's going to be better. And DK Metcalf has best receiver in the league upside, number 1. I'm not talking about top 7, top 5. DK Metcalf has number 1 receiver in the league upside, Randy Moss type upside. So DK Metcalf, number 7. Number 6, we have the reception monster, Cooper Kupp, the guy that plays the position in the smartest, most correct, most optimal, most efficient way, Cooper Kupp. Best route runner in the league. I mean, what more can you say about him? Also in an offense with Sean McVay and Matt Stafford, who are also elite in terms of their intelligence on offense. Only downside on this guy, I know a lot of people are picking him in the first round, sometimes with their first or second pick, or as a receiver at least, is the injury stuff. Of course, he was injured most of last year, and then they shut him down, I think, at the end of last year because they had nothing to play for. And he had a little bit of a hamstring injury, I think, to start the preseason. I think he's recovered from that, and he's doing well now. But hamstring injuries are very scary. I'm scared of it with Jerry Judy, but it seems like the Jerry Judy, I think, was carted off. That was a lot more significant. The Cooper Cup one was just kind of something smaller that happened. So Cooper Cup, of course, elite upside, playing with a good receiver, with a good quarterback and a great coach. So Cooper Cup at number 6. Moving to number 5, we have Jamar Chase. Again, I will say, I know this guy is being drafted as the number 1 receiver by a lot of people, and even with the number 1 pick by a lot of people. And I will go back to his first preseason with the Bengals, and I just can't get the picture of him dropping all those passes out of my head. It's a psychological thing with me, maybe. I know that he's proved since then, in the 2 years essentially since that happened, that he is elite. He is elite. He catches the ball well with his hands. Maybe it was just something in the preseason and he needed to get coached up about that. But I just never forget that. But of course, other than that, can take the ball to the house after catching it, obviously. Catches the ball well with his hands, athletic, has Joe Burrow as his quarterback, who is, of course, top 3 in the league, top 4, or Jake Browning, who also I'm a big fan of. Go Huskies. So Jamar Chase here is more fair to me at number 5 because of the guys that I believe in ahead of him. One of those guys is Tyreek Hill at number 4 of the Miami Dolphins. The most exciting receiver in the league. A guy that I enjoy more than anybody else to have on my fantasy team. And I shouldn't be saying this because I know we are in the season now where people are going to be drafting. I know some people drafted last week, but a lot more people are drafting this week. It's Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. I know people are going to be drafting this weekend and next week as well. I shouldn't have said it, but anyway, I enjoy this guy more than anybody else having on my fantasy team because he gets open better. He's so fast, and he gets open better than anybody else, and he has great catching skills. And once he catches it, you're gonna catch the cheetah. You're gonna catch the cheetah. He's gonna give you the peace on and go peace out to the end zone. And Tua has looked better this year. And of course, they have Jalen Waddle to release some of the pressure from him, and we'll see about their running backs. I don't know. Are they going to get Jonathan Taylor? Their running backs might be an issue. They released Myles Gaskin. I was not a fan of that. I think they should have kept Myles Gaskin. At least they still have Salvon Ahmed. As far as I can see, you should not cut Salvon Ahmed. But Tyreek Hill. What's there more to say? I mean, what's the downside of this guy? Let me try to think of a downside. I don't know. He's pretty sturdy as well. I don't know that he gets injured very often. I don't want to jinx him, knock on wood here, but I guess Tua going down. That's the downside of Tyreek Hill. Number 3, we have A.J. Brown. Extremely reliable A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. I have him higher than a lot of people. Of course, I know this. I know that when you look at this 3, 4, 5, there would be some juggling around for many other people. But A.J. Brown, super solid receiver, super solid. Number 1 receiver, has that number 1 frame. I remember last year he had like maybe 2 games with like 3 or 4 touchdowns. When he gets into the zone, there are a few people that are better than A.J. Brown in a tremendous situation with the Eagles. Nick Sirianni, great offensive coach. Jalen Hurts coming into his own as a great quarterback. Devonta Smith on the other side. Great running backs and DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny and Kenneth Gainwell and Dallas Goedert as a tight end. And what a situation. I mean, this is just ideal, elite, and he is in his prime, entering his 5th year here, 26 years old. Titans were really stupid to let go of this guy. And he showed last year why he is one of the best receivers in the league, and in my opinion, top 3. Moving now to number 2. Can you guess? It's Justin Jefferson at number 2, not at number 1. I know people are going to have issues with this. This is another guy, when you see a lot of mock drafts from a lot of the experts, they're picking Justin Jefferson at number one overall. So I understand he is exceptional. He is elite. He had one of the best catches we've ever seen in the history of football last year with that one-handed catch going up and getting that with like two people draped on him and coming down with the ball. There's not much bad to say about him. He finds ways to get open, has that number one receiver frame, has Jordan Addison now that's better than Adam Thielen. That's going to take some relief from him, especially safety wise. And he has Kirk Cousins. I think that's a good thing. Kirk Cousins is probably a top 10 quarterback, maybe the back end of top 10. But the downside of this guy, as a guy, of course, I pick a lot of receivers. I'm giving something else away that I do in fantasy, but I pick a lot of receivers early. All the elite receivers, I pick them early. So I had a lot of shares of Justin Jefferson last year, and there were games where he had like 2 catches for 17 yards or 3 catches for 21. So he is not unstoppable. He is human. He'll have 2 or 3 games a year where he'll just have maybe an off day or something like that. That's really the only downside I can think about this guy. I'm trying to even it out for everybody. I'm giving some pros and cons for every guy on here. So that's really the only one. But other than that, very, very exciting guy to watch. Elite talent. Absolutely elite talent. So Justin Jefferson at number 2. That leaves at number 1, Davante Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders. The best wide receiver in the league, bar none. Has everything you want in a receiver. Elite frame, elite ability to catch the ball, elite route running, elite effort after the catch. That is the big thing, because a lot of these guys that I mentioned here, even Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, Davante Adams, I always say this about him, gives the same kind of effort that a receiver that is on the 7th string trying to make the team in the preseason gives after he catches the ball. It is amazing. It's inspiring to see. Honestly, it's exactly what you want in a wide receiver, and he makes defensive backs look silly. He embarrasses defensive backs more so than anybody else I see at his frame in the league. Now, of course, the only downside is his quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. That is the only thing, and I understand. Some people are going to say, "Oh, well, that's a pretty big." And of course, okay, who does he have as a number 2 receiver? I'll grant you that. Is it Mac Hollins? I guess. And they get rid of Darren Waller. Is Michael Mayer going to be the guy there? Is he going to take a step? And Josh Jacobs hasn't played in the preseason. Zamir White, he's okay. And Josh McDaniels as his coach. I mean, listen, I know all of this, his situation. That's why he's ranked 10th in some people's big boards. But Jimmy Garoppolo or whoever is playing quarterback, maybe is it Stidham that they have as their backup? Maybe that they'll have a better connection with him if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't work out. But whoever the quarterback is, if you are determined to just throw the ball his way as much as possible, you are going to have tremendous success. I mean, I'm telling you, even some of the elite cornerbacks, he is better than, sometimes significantly better than, and at getting open. And of course, I remember last year there were full halves, where Derek Carr would not get him the ball. 0 receptions in entire halves of the game. I understand that. I am banking on Jimmy Garoppolo or whoever plays quarterback this year to do better than that and to realize the caliber of player you have that is the best offensive player in the league, and my skill player in the league. Maybe you can, set aside Patrick Mahomes or something like maybe Patrick Mahomes essentially. Maybe he's probably second after Patrick Mahomes in my opinion. So, Davante Adams, with all that being said, is number one. And that'll bring the top 32 fantasy wide receivers for the 2023 NFL season to an end. I hope this is helpful for you guys in your drafts. As you draft, maybe you drafted last week, but you want to make a trade before the season starts. People still don't know how people are going to do. Or if you're going to be drafting, a lot of people are going to be drafting this week. If you play PPR or even half-point PPR, trust me, this is the position where you want to have elite players at. Running backs going early, especially if they are older guys, they're going to get injured and they don't catch the ball. You're leaving points on the table if you do not draft a receiver. A lot of these leagues have quarterbacks that only get 4 points instead of 6 for passing touchdowns. And a lot of these players in the league, they're either quarterbacks in the league, they're either great at running or great at passing, not at both. Justin Fields, not at both. Lamar Jackson, definitely not at both. Jalen Hurts, maybe the closest thing to competence in both, and maybe Patrick Mahomes. But really, there isn't that many. This is the position that you want. So highly consider making wide receiver your top priority in your drafts. It's helped me out in fantasy ever since I started to deploy the zero RB strategy. Some people do the hero RB, which is pick one running back and then don't pick one for the rest. I don't know about that. Maybe, I don't know. I'm warming up to that if it's one of those top guys, maybe like a Bijan or a Damian Pierce, or something came out today that I saw that David Montgomery is listed ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs as a running back. I don't know what that's about. That's definitely not the case. So if you're watching on YouTube, it would be awesome if you subscribed. Helps us out a lot. Helps to hopefully increase the frequency and maybe quality and algorithm in terms of putting us up higher in more people seeing us, and would help us out a lot if you enjoy this. And it'd be cool if drop a comment so we can interact, see what you guys like, can bring you more of that type of content. And if you're listening on a podcast platform like Spotify, if you're on Spotify, be awesome if you followed us and gave us a rating, hopefully a good rating, and interact with us on Spotify as well. I think they have places where you can drop a comment or something like that. It would be cool. And social media wise, we're on Instagram and X, formerly Twitter, and TikTok. Now we're on TikTok. I don't know if I want to share what I think about TikTok. You guys tell me what you think about TikTok. It's very different. It's very different than all of the other social media sites. But we're on there. It's been interesting. Let's put it that way. All right. I'm not going to take any more of your time here. I hope this helps you to win some of your championships. I'm going to try to squeeze in a tight end rankings after this. But until then, have a fantastic day and draft, football fans.